AviationPros.com is the portal website for AMT, Airport Business, and Ground Support Worldwide magazines. Visit daily for breaking news, industry blogs, and insightful articles from our magazine's editorial team. And don't forget to sign up for our publication's daily e-newsletters. It's all at AviationPros.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Aviation Pros podcast. I'm Joe Petrie, Editorial Director for Airport Business in the Endeavor Aviation Group. MidAmerica St. Louis Airport has experienced plenty of growing pains in its nearly 30 years of existence. A victim of mass airline consolidation of the early 2000s, dehubbing at nearby Lambert St. Louis Airport, leaders have had to rethink and recalculate plans to grow the business and serve as a valuable asset to the region over the years. Darren James was appointed Airport Director at MidAmerica in late January after serving in an interim director position for 5 months. A veteran of the airport, he brings inside experience to the position and has not only seen the record passenger growth there, but also the recent opening of a new passenger terminal that doubles the size of the old facility. I recently had the opportunity to speak with Darren about the challenges and opportunities he sees with BLV and what the future will hold as him and his team drive the airport to continued growth and success. Darren, well, thank you very much for speaking with me today. Congratulations on the promotion and taking over at BLV. So tell me, first off, tell me a little about your journey on becoming the airport director. I mean, what kind of got you to where you are today and some of the experiences you've had?
So I would tell you, Joe, I probably have a less than typical path to get to a position like this. So I was in the Air Force for 30 years. So I retired from the Air Force in 2020. And my last position was at Scott Air Force Base right here in the local area. So I was familiar with the MidAmerica St. Louis Airport at the time, just because of living in the area, and I've owned a home here since 2003. So I was familiar with the operation out here. But as I retired from the Air Force, I wanted to stay connected in some form or fashion with the local area and aviation in general. And I did some consulting for a while. And then I was presented the opportunity to become the assistant airport director in the beginning of 2022. So I gave consideration to that, asked, what were the details associated with the position. And in that discussion with the previous director, Brian Johnson, the opportunity arose to go ahead and come on to that position. So, the first, I would say, year and a half, I served as the assistant airport director, essentially focusing on running the operations here at MidAmerica St. Louis Airport. So operations maintenance essentially fell under my responsibilities. So also, transferring from the military aviation world is very different from the commercial aviation world. So it was a lot of education and learning the FAA processes, if you will, associated with my position. So that I did that, as I mentioned, for about a year and a half, and then the director, my predecessor, decided that he was going to pursue a different opportunity, a great one over in the Kansas City area. And at the time, the chairman, Mark Kern, asked me if I'd be interested in serving in the position in an interim fashion as they looked at their plans moving forward in their process to determine who would be the next director. And I accepted that position. And then I served in an interim position from August of last year till about November, when I was named as the director of the airport. So, a lot of people you'll find in the industry grew up in the civilian industry, but really my background in the leadership opportunities I had in the Air Force, I think, kind of set the stage for my ability to move into such a position here at MidAmerica.
Mm-hmm. And having that Air Force background of things, tell me, how does that influence your leadership style? I mean, how do you go approach, trying to make sure that you're growing the facility into the best it can be?
Sure. And I think, leadership and understanding your approach to it, it comes from, no matter what vocation you come from or what your background is. And like I mentioned, over 30 years essentially in the Air Force, that was how I was able to develop, my approach and essentially my style, for my leadership style, if you will. But there are things that I learned throughout that time frame and leading fairly large organizations that I think were very applicable. So, much like other people, I don't think just moving into a new position wouldn't cause me to change my approach to leadership. Essentially, I just carried over those characteristics that I learned over those 30 years and have applied them in this role in the civilian aviation world.
And MidAmerica has had a pretty interesting, history as far as since it's been in its existence and how it's evolved over the years. Tell me, and as somebody that has already been working at the airport as it is, what is your vision for what MidAmerica can be and will be and should become?
Well, the vision, obviously, we want to make sure that we're aligned with what the St. Clair County envisions for the airport. So understanding exactly, what the chairman would like to do with this facility and the relationship we have, obviously, with Scott Air Force Base being one of 21 joint use facilities in the United States. It's important to understand, the alignment that we have with the county's vision. So what just right out at the gate, the intent is to continue to foster the relationship we have with Scott Air Force Base, since it's kind of a symbiotic relationship between the Air Force Base and the civilian side here at MidAmerica. So I'll continue to grow that. Obviously, we have a tremendous partnership with tenant organizations on the airport, specifically the largest being the Boeing Company. We've been fortunate to have manufacturing or aircraft parts production that has occurred here at Boeing St. Clair for over a decade. And then most recently, we were fortunate to have Boeing build the production facility for the MQ-25 Stingray, their autonomous air refueling platform, and the ability to also build a taxiway that connects that production facility to our runway. So looking at how we can continue to positively impact the economics of the local area and the local towns and the county, obviously, will continue to be a focus. And then just general growth at the airport. We are fortunate to have a partnership with Allegiant Airlines, and just recently actually announced a new route. So we'll start flying to Knoxville, Tennessee here in the June timeframe. So that's just an example of what we look to do, is to continue to grow that air service to underserved markets, and also look for other opportunities to bring in potentially other low-cost carriers to this airport to serve other locations.
Mm-hmm. And of course, this is a big time in the industry for investment in infrastructure at airports, and MidAmerica is no exception on this. Are there any on the horizon you're particularly excited about or ready to get going on that you think are going to be pretty transformative to the airport?
Absolutely. We're as you mentioned, we're fortunate that there's been a lot of federal money put into airports across the nation, and MidAmerica St. Louis Airport is no exception. I'll talk about recent modifications, because that will give you an idea of what we're doing moving forward as well. But this past June, we were fortunate to open up a terminal expansion. So a $34 million project, which added 42,000 square feet to the terminal, to include some new boarding bridges, but also other enhancements, to include the Transportation Security Administration screening area, an animal relief area, family restrooms, nursing room, making sure that we're fully ADA compliant in those renovations, and really just enhancing the customer experience as they come into our airport to fly to their destinations. That was really the focus. We brought that on. I've already mentioned our connection to Boeing with the production facility. So the next step is we continue to do some modifications. We're renovating the what we'll call the legacy terminal, so the pre-existing portion of the terminal, so that we can bring it up to the same level and level of compliance, if you will, as the new section. So we continue with that, and I'm excited to see that work complete, which will probably be late spring or early summer would be my projection. And at the same time, we're starting to look at the next phase of the modification, which will include the construction of a general aviation facility and a federal inspection station, which is in support of the ability to have international travel. We currently have a general aviation facility that I would say that Customs and Border Protection has been gracious enough to allow us to operate out of, but we need to enhance their capability. So this new facility will actually enhance that, as I mentioned, and let them perform their duties in a space which is more adequate for their operation. And at the same time, we will look at phasing in that federal inspection station, which would then allow us to bring in large air carriers for international travel rather than just the general aviation type aircraft. So the exciting movement is the beginning of that construction, and then obviously the development of some air service that will allow us to attract air carriers into the international arena.
Mm-hmm. So as you see it right now, what are some of the biggest challenges facing MidAmerica? And at the conversely, what are some of the biggest opportunities you're looking to capitalize on?
Sure. Well, every challenge is an opportunity the way I look at it, but and it's not just MidAmerica St. Louis Airport. I would say as you look at the aircraft industry and the airline industry, that's where you see some of the challenges. And usually what you'll see as far as that goes is some of the challenges with both air crew and so I'll say the flight crew having shortages in personnel, right? So it's, do we have the appropriate number of pilots? Do we have the right constitution of captains within the airline industry? And that's actually having impacts on capacity. So when we look at it, you know, we're all airports really are impacted by what's going on in the airline industry itself. So those that are moving people back and forth. So as the pilot demand continues to grow and the supply is not growing at the same rate, that can affect the airline's capacity. Mm-hmm. Each airline is going to address that in their own way. The opportunity that comes out of it, obviously, is to be as supportive as we can in through the FAA and in the rules that they set as far as how the airline pilots are managed and the expectations associated with that. But you know, we continue to just look for where are the opportunities as far as air service development. So, you know, we can't really control what's going on with the in the airline industry, but what we can do is make a pitch for where we think that we can positively impact their bottom line and bring revenue in, you know, with passenger service to new areas. So that's what we'll continue to look for.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the strong partnership you have with Allegiant at MidAmerica St. Louis. Tell me, are there plans to diversify the airline options destinations in the near future you're working on?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the new route to Knoxville with Allegiant is a big announcement that was just made at the beginning of this week. So we look forward to you know, providing the opportunity for people to travel to the Great Smoky Mountains region and Pigeon Forge out in Tennessee. And yes, to further answer your question, we will always look for, well, what's the next opportunity? So, you know, we meet regularly with the air carrier to determine, you know, what may be the next location on the horizon. We'll continue to focus on, you know, the leisure travel and the ultra low cost carriers. But you know, aside from our partnership with Allegiant, yes, we continue to obviously look for the opportunity to bring in other airlines I would tell you that we'll continue to pursue a similar model. I think our location is more attractive to the ultra low cost carriers. We just can't obviously compete on the level with Lambert over in St. Louis. So, we've developed a niche, and that niche is kind of the leisure market. So we'll continue to focus on that.
Mm-hmm. And I got to imagine having that, double the size terminal can't hurt, because it's really, giving you a little bit more capacity to be able to serve these airlines. And tell me, on the other side of it, how is this envisioned to impact that overall passenger experience as they come through Mid-America and make it an airport of choice in the region?
Yeah, the expansion was really part and parcel to that. The way in which the airport was configured, and obviously the occurrence on 9/11, September 11th, 2001, drove a lot of what became the security requirements. So as that, the original terminal wasn't designed with those security requirements, in the structure. So our Transportation Security Administration area, or the screening area, was fairly confined before, and this expansion has really allowed us to give them the proper screening area to also enhance, the way in which they serve the passengers as they come through. So that allowed on the first level for us to kind of spread out the way TSA operates. And then we were able to add the hold rooms upstairs, which included 2 more gates being added. So your point, it's just going to give us the ability to bring in, hopefully, some additional capacity, whether it's from Allegiant or from another airline, to be able to make sure that we're fully utilizing space.
Mm-hmm. And before you mention the new general aviation facility that's planned and the Customs and Border Protection facility, tell me, what is the long-term vision for these developments and how they're going to overall impact the airport?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we do already have a general aviation facility. So the first thing is to improve the workspace in which CBP is operating for that type of operation. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the federal inspection station, the whole purpose there is to be able to raise us to a new level so we can actually process an air carrier plane mode, of passengers coming from an international area. So the GAF, or the General Aviation Facility, restricts us to a certain level of or number of passengers that can be processed. And the FIS is going to allow us to bring in the much larger carriers as we move forward. So the discussion as we build this out and we start the construction, obviously we're committing federal funds to that build out, and we'll be able to start to have that conversation with the air carriers about bringing that international service over here. So that's really going to continue to be the focus. Is, as we start to break ground and we start to build out, we're showing essentially the focus that we have here to bring international travel to MidAmerica St. Louis Airport, and we'll convey that to the airlines that can provide that service.
Mm-hmm. And this is always an interesting time. I'm excited whenever I can bring up trains whenever talking about an airport. I know that MidAmerica is, you have a Metrolink extension coming in from the St. Louis region to help build another connection to the airport. So tell me, how do you see this changing accessibility and connectivity for people in the region?
Well, and exactly the words you use, the accessibility and the connectivity is part and parcel to what we do, right? So we want people to travel out on our aircraft to enjoy different areas within the United States and eventually internationally. But the ability to bring them in and transport them via a mechanism such as the Metrolink is going to be incredibly important. So as you know, the extension that comes from the Scott Shiloh station will terminate out here at MidAmerica St. Louis Airport, and it would be a direct connection. So that the line will run all the way from Lambert in St. Louis all the way out to MidAmerica, connecting those 2 airports. I think the good portion as well is some of the underserved communities, or those that may not have the ability to transport themselves to either airport can now jump on, the mass transit that the Metrolink will provide and allow them to come out here and potentially get to the leisure destination of their choice.
Mm-hmm. It's always exciting to see such opportunities growing even outside of the airport itself, being able to help. So that brings me into my next part of this where we like to talk about, I love to put you airport directors on the spot and give you a chance to really tell us a little bit more about what makes you the best in the industry as part of your facility. So with that, I have to ask you, the first one is, tell me what makes the team at MidAmerica St. Louis the best in the industry?
It's a great question. And what I'll tell you is, it starts with the people that we have, the team that we have. So whether it's pardon me, whether it's a St. Clair County employee, somebody that is directly employed by the airport, or it's some of the contracting teammates that we have a group that is solely focused on continued growth. And I don't think that that's unique to other airports or to this airport. I mean, everybody's looking to do that, but there's a great level of pride that exists in the personnel that serve at MidAmerica St. Louis Airport, and I think there's a vested interest in seeing this industry grow at this location. So I would tell you that's really the foundation of what makes us the team that we are at BLV, and we'll continue to foster that as we bring additional people on. Growth is always it will always be the question: can we continue to grow? And I think the answer to that is yes. And we'll be able to bring some unique opportunities into the area that a larger airport may not be able to contend with, and we can do it at a lower cost. So we'll continue to foster the personnel we have here and grow the team and grow the strength of that team so that we can continue to enhance the operation.
Why are you bullish on the future of BLV?
Well, like I mentioned, I'm kind of vested since I've been a resident for a couple of decades here. And I think that the community deserves to have an airport like MidAmerica St. Louis Airport to serve it. So I tend to remain focused on where can we excel. I think we've identified our niche, which I kind of described earlier. And I have no doubt that we can continue to press forward, but it requires a lot of support, and it requires support from the community. It requires support from the county, and it requires support from the airline industry. So part of it is just making sure that we remain connected with those that have the ability to continue to let us move forward in a positive direction.
Mm-hmm. What is the most underrated thing about BLV that people in the industry might not recognize?
I think any small airport would say the same thing, and that is the ease at which it is to get in and out of this airport. The connection and the opportunity to come right off of I-64 and into our facility, and in the future, as we had already talked about, potentially via the Metrolink. It is much easier to get in and out of our location than it is when you look at some of the larger airports. So convenience, speed, I will tell you the personal touch that we're able to provide as well. As I mentioned, we're very focused on the customer experience. The benefit that I have is the assistant airport director I brought on, Jennifer Hogenkamp, has experience from large hubs where she worked out in Fort Lauderdale, all the way down to a non-hub like ourselves. So the experience she brings in and the ideas will continue to foster so that we can continue to bring in service that our customer may not be able to get at some of the larger locations.
And my last question for you, I know you're brand new to the job, but you've been there for a few years, but what is the most important goal you want to complete by the end of 2024?
Air service growth, very simple. We've started, like I mentioned, with the addition of the route to Knoxville, Tennessee, but additional growth, and whether it's with Allegiant or another air carrier, that will continue to be my focus, and that's something I definitely know we can get or we already have accomplished in 2024. But I'd like to take that further. In the same vein, that service development goes hand in hand with the construction of our general aviation facility and that federal inspection station. So as we start to positively move forward in the construction of those facilities, that will enhance our ability to have conversations with the air carriers so that we can continue to look at growing the operation that we have here in support of the local community.
Darren, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. I'm really excited about the future of BLV myself, and I can't wait to see how things progress there for you and your team.
All right, Joe. I look forward to seeing you fly out of here.
All right. Thank you. Thanks again for listening to today's podcast. To hear all the latest information on airport management and best practices, make sure to subscribe to Airport Business and visit our website, AviationPros.com. Airport Business is where leaders live. I'm Joe Petrie. We'll catch you next time.